Hi everybody, Rabbi Rosen here, and as always it's wonderful to be with you. We conclude the book of Numbers with a double portion this year, and it contains within Matot Maseh, a very curious episode with a very beautiful message. We find that as the people are preparing to enter the land, 2.5 tribes approach Moses and say, "We don't want to cross the Jordan and join the rest of you. We are prepared to be troops, will come in and fight as necessary, but after all, where we would like to settle, the land is wonderful and perfectly suited to cattle for grazing. That's where we would like to be." And the people go on to say, the 2.5 tribes that are involved make the statement that here we would like to build enclosures, sheepfolds for our flock, and build cities for our children. Moses initially is upset. After all, this is a group separating themselves from the rest of the people. But at the same time, after a bit of consultation, as it were, Moses comes back and says, "Fine, if you agree to be troops when we need you, go ahead and build cities for your children and build the enclosures for your cattle and flock." It's very subtle what Moses does here. He simply reverses the terms enclosures for flock and cities for children. He places the children first. And by doing so subtly, you even have to wonder if the people have picked up on the gentle rebuke that he offers them. But the rebuke stands. They had their priorities backwards. And it reminds us of the challenge all of us face in life so very often. As has been stated in many different ways, we get so busy in making a living that we forget about making a life. We place the very harsh and challenging details of making things work financially at the core of all that we do, that we forget about the relationships, our roles as parents and children and siblings and spouses and friends. And we make those things have a kind of second place in our lives where in so many ways they ought to be number one. The portion in this episode in particular remind us that we need to make a life first before we figure out the best way to make a living. We need to prioritize the roles that we play in nurturing and caring and bringing forth new dimensions of joy and possibility for those close to us before we figure out the details of how we're going to pay for everything. And so with that in mind, we see that the making of a life needs to always go first before we make a central focus on making a living. It's the 2.5 tribes and the gentle rebuke of Moses that show us the way. Shabbat Shalom.